Narendra, Taneja, India's leading energy expert. What are your thoughts as you look from India's perspective with the sort of what appears to be nearly a growing sense that this is the, as they say in American football, the pep rally before the big game begins?
Well, I think to me it is the new normal now, in the sense that I don't see any sign of their war over Ukraine coming to an end anytime soon. It looks more like between Russia and the United States, and less Russia and only Ukraine. I mean, of course, the United States is leading, but the entire West, NATO, and many other countries around the world, they are with the US, they are with the West. And at the same time, we have seen statement by Chinese top envoy at the Munich Security Conference. If you read between the lines, he was also making it very clear that, look, they want to see the end of it, but at the same time, it's the United States which basically, according to him, is playing his own kind of geopolitical, game. But my sense is that the global economy, global energy markets, they have by now more or less kind of reconciled. They've adjusted to it, and you can see that in terms of prices of oil and gas and coal and even uranium and so on and so forth. So my sense is that it has been, by market, it has been localized. It's more between Russia and Ukraine and Western Europe, including the US. And at the same time, I think there is absolutely no serious effort being made by any party, including the UN Secretary General, to bring these parties together, or to bring them on the table, or at least to get the ceasefire declared for 1 year. If you get ceasefire for 1 year and help temperatures to come down so that they can sit across the table and try to build a new way forward. But nobody seems to be interested in that. I think the West is arming Ukraine, and Russia is doing what Russia is doing. What Russia did was absolutely, stupid and barbaric, no doubt about it, and should not be accepted. But at the same time, it's high time that players like who enjoy good credibility to at least ask for ceasefire, because ceasefire is going to create so is the new normal. This will go on. But when it comes to the energy, you have seen that the Western Europe, America, they took the lead and they weaponized oil, imposed all the sanctions. Where are the sanctions now? There are no sanctions.
I wanted, Narendra, to get your views on what kind of a game changer it would be if China was to overtly join this war in a sort of support on a military level. The American government is now warning, basically letting it be known, their intelligence is telling them that China is about to sort of cross a fairly significant line of support for China, for Russia. What would that mean from India and the perspective India has on this conflict in Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
Well, first of all, in my earlier comment, what I said, I'm a neutral observer. My observation was absolutely unsentimental. I'm not taking sides.
No, I know.
I'm just looking at I'm a professional, so I'm just looking at it and sharing my perspectives without being sentimental or emotional about it, which many of you are in the Western part of the world. I'm taking more like a professional. So now you see that's the reality. The fact is that I said that I've read the China statements between the lines very carefully, and including statements at the Munich Security Conference by various leaders, including the Western leaders and also President Zelensky and the Chinese top diplomats, so on and so forth. But my sense is that China is a smart country. I don't think they would. My sense is they would not like to get involved in the Ukrainian war in this kind of no-win situation. And at the same time, China is buying time. They need at least another 15 years to get to where they want to get to, being a kind of equal to the United States militarily and economically. I think so. My sense is that China's focus is on Taiwan and South China Sea. I don't really see that they're going to, beyond a point, going to do anything. And India, for instance, India is also neutral, contrary to what some people might think. We are neutral. We are just buying oil from there, just because it's pure economic. And let's not forget one thing: had China and India, the second largest market and third largest market, they have stopped buying oil from Russia, crude oil today would have been at least $110 per barrel, Brent. And that would have created more problem for my American economy, for President Biden, and every single country which is, is a in Western part of the world and OECD. So thanks to India and China. They should
Well,
be
that's
grateful to
really
India and
why
China.
the cap or the sanctions on Russia were
Let,
not
no, no, listen.
structured. They were structured to allow oil to keep flowing. I mean,
No,
that
but
was the
that's
whole
no,
purpose.
but let me finish. That's you see, the point is when you first come out with sanctions without thinking through carefully, then you come out with G7 kind of cap. And those people who did that, either they don't understand how the oil market functions or they just ignored it. The fact is, two major things have happened. Thanks to India and China, that oil prices are low and Western economies are able to recover. Let's understand it. Second, also the other side of it, de-dollarization. Now, many countries have started paying using, for instance, Indian companies are using UAE's currency to pay to Russians. So it's the process of de-dollarization. It started from China and it's now basically, is spreading, is going viral.
Well, the reason they're
So
using the dirham is because it's pegged to the dollar. But I
I
want you to answer my question, Narendra. I come back to it. How would India react if China does take this step? They're obviously very engaged in their support, whatever characterization you have of it, of Russia. If in China was to take a step towards militarily supporting Russia, would that be in any way a game changer for India, like it would be for Europe and the United States?
As a doctrine, India never participates in these kind of wars, beyond our borders and shores. We never do that. That's part of India's
China, I'm talking
doctrine.
about China.
Well, China can do whatever China wants, but India is very clear on that. On this, India is neutral, and India's, India needs the West. India is very close to Western countries. We have a special
relationship. So if China joined Russia in a military war, India would stay agnostic.
India will stay where India is. Continue to buy oil from Russia if Russia can make sure the crude can be delivered at Indian ports, and they take care of the shipping part. And at the same time, India can find the ways to make payments for them. That's it. But beyond it, I mean, if China can do whatever, but as far as India is concerned, India's stand is very clear. India never historically, takes sides on such matters. And B, Western countries are very important for India. So is Japan. So is all the Quad countries. And so is actually even China, as long as, you follow the international law. India will go strictly as per the international law. And India has made it very clear repeatedly. Our prime minister spoke in public, in front of the cameras, with the Russian president saying, look, in these times, in these days, 2022, you don't fight war. You don't attack other countries. So that's India's stand very clear on that. Ukraine is a sovereign country. Ukraine's sovereignty is very, very important. That's why it's important that two countries, these warring countries, come to the table. Unfortunate part of the story is that no leader, no country is making effort to bring these two parties on the table. Question is why.
We haven't talked regarding the development of Gautam Adani in India. At first, I thought this was sort of a nothing story, just a lot of drama. But it seems to have become something quite significant. I wonder, from your perspective, from inside the country, is it as significant as it sort of appears from the outside? How big a deal is this? I mean, particularly as it might relate to energy, given that Adani had such major commitments to green energy. What are your thoughts on the fallout of this event?
Well, I mean, his exposure is both in the conventional energy like LNG terminals and LPG terminals, and also new sources of energy, including, solar and hydrogen. But he's a big player in infrastructure, and he's basically in the brick and mortar business. So you can go touch it, and, if things don't work out, you will always find a buyer. So in the sense that, we have seen the reports and all that, but in India, since, we were kind of, practice Soviet-style socialism for almost 50, 60 years before we started opening up in 1991. So whenever there is a rise of a new group on the horizon, they have to go through this kind of, scrutiny. And we saw that with Reliance in the 1990s and 1980s. We saw that with the Tatas in 50s and 60s. We saw that with another conglomerate called the Birla conglomerate also in the 70s. So I think, so now it's Adani's turn. Tomorrow it will be someone else because we still have this resistance. Whenever, for instance, you have got an agenda, you're working hard, and you are willing to basically take risk and you grow fast, there are questions. But this is not to say that, some of the questions being raised in terms of not, fully, doing well in terms of compliances and all that. That's a story we don't know. There's for agencies to investigate. A central bank is investigating. Regulator of stock market they are investigating. So let's wait for the findings of these regulators, two important regulators in the country. But as far as the business is concerned, all the businesses that Adani Group is into, whether conventional energy or unconventional energy, these are brick and mortar projects. They're coming up, and if tomorrow Adani doesn't want to take them forward, there will be someone else. In the sense because there are many international collaborators also participating. 65% funding has come from foreign bankers or foreign lenders. So it's kind of it's a quite huge project. But I would just say these investigations are being done by these two regulators, Reserve Bank of India and SEBI, the regulator of stock market. But other allegations, I'm sure they are investigating. But as far as these things are concerned, we in India know that if you are big, if you are growing as fast as Adani was, there would be questions, there would be scrutiny, there would be allegations. Some might be true, some might not be true, but you have to go through it that because still India, majority of people in India, they still kind of very socialistic the way they look at big business. If you are moving too fast, if you're growing too fast, they're suspicious, they have questions in their mind, and they think, oh, you must be doing something hanky-panky and so on and so forth. But that is not to say anything on that because, as I said, that's the regulator's job. I personally don't have any opinion on that. But what we need in India is we need to come out of the socialistic mindset because in India we need at least 20 conglomerates of the size of at least $400 billion because we have a big ambition as a nation. So I think the socialistic mindset should not become come in the way. But I'm not suggesting everybody's like that, but there are many. Luckily, young people, they are kind of more modern, they are more progressive, they want more Indian conglomerate, they are taking initiatives and so on and so forth.
But in the immediate sense of any impact on Indian refining, production, physical industrial activity, while the stock market price has been hit, the actual industrial activity remains the same, and there's no obvious thing to point at as a consequence of fallout of this.
No, not at all. Because you see, I mean, domestic investors or foreign investors, they're coming in looking at India's potential and what India has to offer in terms of, the economic reforms so on and so forth. Even after that, Adani, we have seen, for instance, India buying, planes from Boeing, about 500 planes, and another Indian company, private sector company, is